Okay, picture this. October 25th, 1415. You're part of an English army that's exhausted, sick, and trapped on a muddy field in France. You are hopelessly outnumbered. By all logic, you and everyone you know should be completely wiped out. Instead, what happened that day was one of the most stunning, unbelievable victories in all of military history. Today, we're going to break down exactly how they pulled off the impossible at the Battle of Agincourt. First things first, let's just look at the raw numbers, because they tell you everything you need to know. On one side, you've got the English, an invading army, maybe 6,000 men strong, and they are worn out and riddled with sickness. On the other side, a massive French force of around 25,000, totally fresh and defending their home turf. I mean, on paper, this isn't even a battle. It's a guaranteed slaughter. So that's the central puzzle we're going to solve. How in the world did a force, outnumbered at least 4-1, not just scrape by, but win a victory so total it's almost unbelievable? Let's get into it. To really get this victory, you have to understand just how desperate the situation was for the English before a single arrow was even fired. This was not a fight they were looking for. You see, this army wasn't out looking for glory. It was an army in full retreat. After a really long, brutal siege at the port of Harfleur, King Henry V's forces were just ravaged by dysentery and pure exhaustion. Their only goal was simple: make it to the safety of Calais. But the French had other ideas. They put together this huge army specifically to block their path and force a fight. But here's the thing, it wasn't just about the numbers. The English had one single unified commander, King Henry V. The French, on the other hand, were led by a bunch of bickering nobles, all trying to one-up each other and grab all the glory. And their armies were just built differently. England's ace in the hole was the longbow. France? They put all their faith in the heavily armored knight on horseback. This was a total clash of military philosophies. So how did Henry V look at his tired, tiny army and come up with a plan that turned every single one of his weaknesses into a game-winning advantage? This is where the genius comes in. Henry's plan was just brilliant in how simple it was. First, he chose the perfect battlefield. A narrow, freshly plowed field squeezed between two thick forests. This basically forced the giant French army into a bottleneck, making their numbers totally useless. Second, he put his deadliest weapon, his thousands of longbowmen, on the sides, creating a horrifying kill zone. And third, he had those archers jam sharpened stakes into the ground in front of them. A simple but ingenious defense against a cavalry charge. And that second step was absolutely critical, because the English longbow was basically the machine gun of the Middle Ages. A good archer could fire off 10, maybe 12 arrows a minute, with enough power to punch right through steel armor. Henry's entire strategy was built on these guys completely shredding the French charge before it could even get close. All right, so the plan is in place. Now let's see how it all went down on that muddy field. The terrain itself was about to become Henry's best soldier. Just as Henry expected, the French, who were way too confident in their shiny armor and huge numbers, kicked things off with a direct charge. All their nobles and knights wanted to be the first to break the English line and claim all the glory. And this is where Henry's choice of battlefield proved to be a masterstroke. That narrow field crammed all the French knights together, turning their army into a struggling, dense crowd. And that field? It was a sea of thick, sticky mud. Imagine trying to run through that wearing 60 pounds of metal. Their glorious charge slowed to a miserable, exhausting crawl. And into this slow-moving, tightly packed traffic jam of armored knights, the English archers just unleashed hell. We're talking thousands and thousands of arrows raining down from the sky. They pierced armor, they took down horses, and they created absolute pandemonium. The French front lines were getting annihilated before they even had a chance to fight. With that first charge completely shattered and the French totally disorganized, the lightly equipped English soldiers and even the archers themselves surged forward. They went in with daggers, axes, and swords for some brutal close-quarters combat against knights who could barely move. The trap had sprung, and it worked perfectly. The final result was just staggering. The English lost maybe a few hundred men. The French, on the other hand, were decimated. Thousands were killed, including a huge chunk of their nobility. It's still one of the most lopsided, shocking victories in all of military history. But the impact of Agincourt didn't just end when the fighting stopped. This one day would echo for decades, changing the course of the war, the way wars were fought, and the story of an entire nation. You can really see the battle's legacy in three key ways. Politically, the win was so complete that it led to a treaty that literally named Henry V the heir to the French throne. Militarily, it shattered the myth of the invincible armored knight, proving that disciplined infantry and archers could dominate. And culturally, well, it created a legend that's still with us today. And that legend was pretty much cemented into history forever by one person, William Shakespeare. His play, Henry V, with those incredible speeches, turned a bloody battle into a timeless story of leadership, courage, and a band of brothers winning against impossible odds. So, what's the big takeaway from all this? Beyond the history and the strategy, Agincourt is just this powerful reminder that being outnumbered or being underestimated isn't always a death sentence. Sometimes it's the perfect opportunity to think differently, to fight smarter, and to turn what looks like a hopeless situation into your greatest possible victory.